If you pitch something like the greatest beer run to me, I would probably tell you there is no way anyone would believe something like that could happen. Except, it did.
I'm going to Vietnam, and I'm bringing a beer!
What's up, everybody? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and today we are going to do a quick movie review about the latest Zac Efron and Peter Farrelly movie, The Greatest Beer Run Ever. Based on a surprisingly true story, The Greatest Beer Run Ever follows Chicky Donahue, played by Zac Efron, as he goes from New York in 1967 and travels all the way over to Vietnam, where, I don't know if you know this, but there was a bit of a conflict going on at that time, all just to bring his buddies a beer. So right now online, it seems that this movie is getting a lot of hate from critics. It actually has a pretty low Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes score, but the fans are a little more mixed on it. And not to bury the lead, I kind of liked it. Now, that's not to say it's without fault. There are definitely some things in the movie that I was kind of rolling my eyes at and didn't really enjoy, but overall, I think it was a pretty good time. For those that don't know, this movie is directed by Peter Farrelly, who is of the Farrelly brothers. If you don't know him, or them, I should say, they are the pair that brought you one of my favorite movies of all time, Dumb and Dumber. Also, There's Something About Mary. They did a lot of comedies like that in the 90s, but more recently, Peter Farrelly is known for winning the Oscar for The Green Book, which was kind of a controversial win, which honestly may be why a lot of the critics now are kind of crapping on this movie. So I'll tell you what, since I'm mostly positive on this movie, I'm going to tell you the things that I didn't like first. For one, the movie is a bit long. I think it's around 2 hours and 20 minutes, which can be pretty long for something like this. Now, I watched it at home. Not only is it in select theaters, but it's on Apple TV Plus, so I kind of watched it in the comfort of my own home and took my time with it, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I could definitely see if you are stuck in a theater, especially the first half of this movie, it drags a little bit, so you might find yourself wanting to kind of get out of there. Additionally, some of the messaging, especially early on in the movie, is a little heavy-handed and clumsy, right? So we all know that there's going to be a message here. It's about the Vietnam War, and as with all the Vietnam movies we've seen before, there's going to be a message about some of the mistakes that the American government made during that time. It's just that in the beginning of the movie specifically, they kind of stumble over it a little bit, and it feels pretty obvious the message that they're trying to get across. But then, as we get later into the movie, you really kind of get wrapped up in the actual humanity of the characters and what they're going through, and so then it kind of blends and flows a lot smoother, I think. Especially when you're introduced to Russell Crowe's character later on in the second half of the film. There's a reason he's one of the greats. He is absolutely fantastic in this movie, with him and Zac Efron honestly being the saving grace of the acting talent in this film. You also have Bill Murray, who plays a smaller role throughout the movie, and he's okay in his role. He's Bill Murray. He's a great actor. I don't think he really blew me away necessarily as much as Zac Efron and Russell Crowe did, though. They really stood out. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the other actors and actresses in this movie were not so great. I don't know if it was necessarily their fault or if it was the writing or direction, but it felt a little amateurish at times. I know I hate to judge people that are doing this for a profession, but that's just my opinion. That's what I saw when watching the movie. But I think a lot of the places where people found fault in this movie, I just didn't. I enjoyed it. It was both emotionally moving and of course had a message that it was trying to share, but it also had a lot of dumb, silly, goofy moments that you might expect from something like some of the classic Farrelly movies. With Zac Efron's character, he is just kind of an idiot. He's really going over there with pure intentions, but not a lot of practical understanding of what he's getting himself into. And so because of that, you have these moments of comedy that are interspersed throughout the movie. But at the same time, underneath that, in the background, is this overarching story of the atrocities of war. So I kind of like how they blended it together. It didn't bother me at all. It didn't stand out as imbalanced or anything like that. And all in all, I thought it was a pretty good film. Now, I don't think it's something that's going to be Oscar worthy per se, but certainly not something that I regret watching and something that I would be willing to share with my friends. Now, of course, if you're going to be watching this at home, you should be aware it is rated R, so maybe not for the little ones. There is, of course, a war going on, and they do not skimp on showing some of the more gruesome aspects of that. In addition to that, there's a bit of language, but all in all, I think they do kind of hold back a bit. I wouldn't say it's a super hard R movie by any means. Just be aware of what you're getting yourself into. So overall, a positive review from me on The Greatest Beer Run Ever. I think Zac Efron and Russell Crowe did a fantastic job, and I think that it's really cool that we're kind of seeing this different side to Zac Efron now as he gets a bit older. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. What did you think about The Greatest Beer Run Ever? Or let me know, what's your favorite movie directed by Peter Farrelly or the Farrelly brothers? Mine is absolutely Dumb and Dumber. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think my favorite comedy. All right, that's gonna be it for me. I'll catch you on the next one. Be good.